First of all, welcome to the School Planning Committee meeting of Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. It's been quite some time since we've met together as a group. I'd like to confirm that this meeting is being held fully remotely in accordance with the Governor Baker, Massachusetts, March 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law requirements, and that those extensions will continue through, I believe, April of 2022. Members are joining us remotely via Zoom. Just trying to remember what else I need to say. This meeting is being recorded by ECAT. Minutes are being taken and will be made available to the public subsequent to the meeting. All meeting votes tonight will happen via roll call vote as required by the provisions of the open meeting law. I'm going to quickly go down the roll and confirm the members who are here this evening, and then we'll jump into the meeting and try and be as efficient as possible. I will allow public participation, but I'm going to ask that any public participation be held until the end of the meeting. So if I say your name, can you just confirm with a yes that you are here and in attendance for the meeting? Dr. Alicia Cabral?
Yes.
Ken Carlson? Ken? Oh, he's muted. Ken's muted. I can see that he's here and probably trying to unmute himself. Dottie Fulgenetti.
I'm here.
Hi, Dottie.
Hi.
Patrick Helen.
Patrick's here.
Caroline O'Neill.
Yes.
Connor Reed.
Present.
Dave Field.
Here.
Billy Soberai.
Yes.
Dave Twombly.
Yes.
Ann Weintraub. I don't believe Ann could attend this evening. Jackie Weissman.
Here.
And Jane Martin. And I'd also like to confirm and welcome Tim Vamosi, who is a new member of the School Planning Committee, the new designee from the Finance Committee, because Jamie Stebbins was elected to the Select Board. So congratulations, Tim, and welcome to the group. We're excited to have you join us.
Jane, I see that Ken is unmuted now.
Oh, there's
Right.
Ken. Hi,
Sorry
Ken.
about that.
No worries, no worries. So we have a full slate. And I'm confirming also, just so everybody knows, that Tim has been sworn in, so he is eligible to vote along with us tonight. We also have our usual cast of characters from PMA and PE who will get us through this meeting with their usual methods of efficiency. So the first thing I'd like to do is review and take a motion to approve the minutes of March 3rd, 2021.
I'll make that motion. Fulgenetti.
Can I have a second?
Wiseman, second.
And I'm going to do a quick roll call vote. Cabral?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Fulgenetti?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Soberai?
Yes.
Vamosi?
Vamosi abstain.
Wiseman?
Yes.
And Martin, I am a yes. So without further ado, as I said, the last time we've met was March 3rd. Since that time, we've had a groundbreaking, outreach to the public, and lots of activity on that site. So with that said, I'm going to ask that Walter or Chad, I'm not sure who's walking us through this, walk us through what's next. Thanks so much.
You got it. Jane, everyone can see the screen share?
Yep,
All right.
I believe so.
Great. You are correct. There has been a lot of progress on the site. I think that most of everyone on the committee has probably seen some of it. But PMA will take you through some photos of the site if you haven't. So the loam stockpile, that was one of the first activities. They stripped the loam off the site. They took it over on the agreed upon location next to the Parkview School. That has since been seeded so that there's no erosion issues. They've been doing a great job maintaining that and keeping it safe. And you know, a couple stones did roll down. They repaired the fence immediately, which was really good to see. On the right-hand side, you'll see the new curb cut at Lothrop Street. We call it the 37 Lothrop Street entrance. It is the emergency and first responders access only. There'll be a gate those first responders will be able to get through. But that is the construction entrance. You see the wheel wash. It has since been extended to make sure that there's no silty materials getting onto the road. It does occur sometimes during a big rainstorm, so they backed it up about another 40, 50 feet into the site to really make sure they were able to catch it all. So that's one of the new curb cuts. On the left, you'll see the dozer doing a little bit of loam stripping and bringing that elevation down to the working pad where the rammed aggregate piers were then put in. You'll see those in a few pictures. On the right, you'll see excavation and backfill of stone, at the footings. The excavation goes down with a witness from the geotechnical engineering company, Geotechnical Partnership. The stone is immediately placed to secure it. It's proof rolled, and then the stone is proof rolled on top of that. All of these excavations are witnessed by the geotechnical engineering firm. On the left, you will see the material that was taken out below the loam, and that is the on-site material that's being crushed and reused. The reason it's being crushed is in the bottom or middle left of the picture, you'll see some of the large stones, not boulders, that need to be broken up in order to be placed again so that good compaction can be met. On the right-hand side, you will see the operation of the rammed aggregate pier installation. If you remember back during the design, due to the nature of the soils on the site, it was recommended and moved forward with that these piers were installed on the site. We did about 1,100 of these over the last 2.5 months. Subsurface Construction recently broke down their equipment, and they were from Midwest, I believe, Missouri. So they drove out here with all that equipment, set it up, did their rammed aggregate piers, and they broke down their equipment last week, and they are off site. So one entire phase of the construction portion is complete at this point in time. What you see on the right is the auger, digs down anywhere between 10 and 15 feet. Sometimes they hit a little bit of refusal. They try to work through it. If they can't, it's designated as kind of a non-useful pier, but they track it anyway. There wasn't a lot of them. They were able to get through them. On the left, you'll see what the rammed aggregate pier installer. There's a hopper in the front right there. It's filled with 3/4 stone. It goes up to the top, and then you can kind of see the head right there that goes into the hole and proofs the bottom of it, and then about 1 foot of stone goes in. It then proofs, and it proofs all the way up to the top. The machine is quite impressive, or was quite impressive, until the last day when it did start breaking down, but it made it through, so it was able to finish. On the left, you'll see the footings going in. L&L Concrete is on site. They started forming up footings, and you can see the layout below the spray paint. On the right-hand side, you'll see excavation and installation for underground structures. This is on the right-hand side looking at Lothrop Street. To the right is the police and fire. Here on the left, you will see UGI number 1. UGI is Underground Infiltration System number 1. We have 3 of these on the site. There are 6 chambers along this one. There's stone, fabric. It's taken down to acceptable soil, and then the fabric's put on stone. The blue tubing that you see, the corrugated system. They latch together. They're built from one end. This system goes from almost one entrance to the other along Lothrop Street, so it's quite large. It's the largest system on the site. The two others are under the parking on the easterly side of the site, and then in between buildings C and D, which are the easterly parts. So there's two more on the east side of the site. We've started pouring concrete, and you can see that here. These are the concrete footings and rebar in prep for the walls along E building, first site. Over on the right, you'll see the uke that has that's tracking back and forth. That's sitting right on top of the underground infiltration system. So that whole system has been covered up, installed, and is good to go. On the left here, you'll see the beginning of the waterproofing, damp proofing at the walls at E building. And on the right, you'll see the excavation and vapor barrier for the elevator pit. And we do have 3 site cameras. This one is on the northwest corner of the site. We have one on the northeast corner of the site, and then another on the southeast corner of the site. They are viewable to anyone who would like to see them, but this is just a really good picture. The construction trailers are to the left-hand side of the picture. And you can kind of see quite a bit of progress. A lot of material on site. Footings are moving around. Interior footings and piers are going in. A lot of the water utility material is over in the corner along the tree line. So the site's quite busy. There's typically anywhere from 20 to 40 people on site. And that is going to ramp up quite a bit. So as much as 20 to 40 people is good, we are going to eventually get upwards of 100 at some points on this site. So we'll get extremely busy. Quick update on cash flow. And before I turn it over to Chad, I'll open it up for any questions. But build to date, you'll see the 7,057,789. And estimated reimbursement of 2,922,448. We say estimated MSB reimbursement. We track that through our ProPace system. So we have an actual, and then we have an estimated, but that is the estimated at this point in time is the 2.9 million for what we have submitted and have yet to submit. You'll notice on the bottom under April and May, that we are slightly under the expected. That is due to the fact that the BRAIT applications for payment for April and May are yet to be approved. We are awaiting construction prerequisite deliverables with each payment. There's about 7 to 10 of them that are required from BRAIT builders before that payment is accepted and approved. So they are working on them at this point in time. I think they were planning on having their deliverables completed by the end of tomorrow. So those red bars are actualized at this point in time for payments made to date or invoiced through to date, but not for the 2 construction payments for both of those months. Does anyone have any questions on any of the photos that I was showing? I know, Jane, you said, oh, go ahead, Connor, sorry. I can only see 6 people, so just yell and I can answer.
So thank you for the update. Photos are great. The project website has a kind of slideshow of photos, but is there a live cam that's publicly viewable yet? And if so, how would someone get to that?
I was going to ask too.
Chad, I believe that those are viewable to the public. Is that correct?
They are, yep. So I had fired out a link a couple weeks back that had one of the cameras up and running, and the other 2 cameras should have been added to that same link. We can resend it out.
If you resend it out, I'll add a link to the project website. I don't think when I had updated the project website, those links weren't live yet. So we can add a link to the project website, and maybe Dr. Cabral, we could also put a link on the district website.
It is there already.
Okay,
I don't want to speak for Connor, but I think what he's asking is the cameras are a series of still shots, and he's asking if there'll be a live feed as a camera. And I don't think there will be. I think those are what they're gonna be, right?
Yeah, so there'll
Yeah.
be still
But you
photos
can
every 15
scroll,
minutes.
so Connor, what I did was like scroll across the bottom and you can see time lapse, but it's not like your zoo cam where you see the birth of an animal or something. It's not gonna be like that, I don't think. I think that's what you were asking.
No, I've seen that, the kind of stills that you were talking about, but I don't think that is embedded on the project website. I think there's a direct link we all have. I just don't think that is front facing on the.
Oh, the visual, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah,
That's
just
correct. I
know
have
everyone
that,
has
so-
a million things going on, but once that is on the website, that'd be a neat thing to share with the public.
Yep,
Yeah,
I can put that link. I can't remember what I have and have not put on the project website, but we can easily add those links to the project website.
Jane, we can put you in touch with the appropriate technical folks to get the live feed embedded there. It is
Great.
possible.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so that was a quick construction update. I'm going to turn it over to Chad at this point, and Chad's got some great information to update the committee with.
All right, thanks, Walter. So the reason that this committee hasn't met in the past 3 months, we were tied up in bid protests with the Attorney General's bid protest unit initially. And while they were working on their decision, case was actually filed in Superior Court seeking an injunction on the project. This all goes back to the award of the general contract, something that we had talked about as a committee and we knew was coming. We certainly knew that they were going to go to the AGO bid protest. We were uncertain whether or not they would seek an injunction. They did. The good news is on both fronts, they were denied. So while they were waiting for their date in court, the AGO, because they already had the hearing, actually issued a decision denying the protest at the AGO's level, which was terrific because if they had filed the injunction in court first, we would not have gotten a position from the AGO. The AGO will not chime in on something that's in the court's hands. And then you can see on the right, the Superior Court, a few weeks after the AGO's decision, also denied the preliminary injunction. So we are in the clear on this end and charging forward.
And Chad, I believe we are past the
appeal period?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was blanking there. Thank
The
you.
decision was dated May 3rd. The odd part is that it actually didn't get posted and nobody was aware of it until a couple weeks after that. So I don't know where the appeal period exactly lands, but if you use the May 3rd date, then yeah, the 30 days is up, but I don't know which one would actually be applicable.
I'd just like to publicly thank members of the project team and members of district administration, and particularly members of our town administration, who worked to coordinate and gather information to help support this process. I think the results are great for the town and great for the project, so I did want to thank the folks who helped make those outcomes as positive as possible.
Connor and District Council were superb. They were very helpful, so we appreciate that assistance as well.
That's really it for the update there. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, but pretty straightforward. Good news. All right. So this next one of the next steps that we need to do is something called a PFA, Project Funding Agreement Bid Amendment with the MSBA. So back at Schematic Design, we locked in the project scope and budget. It was called the Project Scope and Budget Agreement that led us to a project funding agreement that had that itemized line by line budget. Now that we have bids in and we have actuals, we need to reconcile with the MSBA. So the way that the MSBA policy reads on a strict interpretation is that the MSBA shares in the bid savings at the reimbursement rate. In practice, what we've been seeing is they actually reforecast the entire MSBA grant amount using the cost per square foot caps. And because we're over the $333 square foot cost per square foot cap, most of the bid savings should actually fall back to the town, which is terrific. But we need to go through the negotiation process. And in order to start that, we actually need to submit a packet to the MSBA. And one of the items in that packet is confirmation of what we're doing with the district share of the bid savings. PMA's recommendation, especially in an uncertain time like this, steel prices, lumber prices, I mean, you've all seen the news. It's a free insurance policy to shift it to contingency. There's no action required. We would never bond the money. When we track contingency utilization, we'll still track it based on the original budgeted contingency amount. So it's literally just an extra insurance policy at the end of the project. It's never needed. It was never borrowed. That would be PMA's recommendation. That's what we see most other districts do, but we do need a decision to come from this committee, and we do need a formal vote on that. And then we'll need a letter from district council, basically confirming same.
Anna, go ahead.
So this makes sense, and I can corroborate what you're saying, that the contingency doesn't get borrowed, so unless it's being used. You said most districts do this. Why would a district not do this?
I'm not aware of any district that has not done that.
Okay, fair enough. That was all.
And so this is all of what we've just discussed, is so that essentially you can begin that negotiation process with the MSBA. And then my next question is, how long does that process typically take? And what do you usually see the MSBA doing as a result of this kind of situation?
So the process itself really depends on, so we have to time it out with the MSBA board meeting. They only meet every other month. And then the MSBA project management team has to pull together their volley back to us and part of the negotiated sort of adjusted PFA bid amendment. And once we see that, if everything's good, it's pushed through pretty quick. But if we do have any questions, it could push it off another board meeting. So it's difficult to put an exact timeline. I mean, if shot from the hip, 3 months or 5 months if we rejected initially.
Okay.
So it takes time, but as long as it's in motion, they'll continue to reimburse the district. We just need to make sure it's in motion, as that's when we're at jeopardy for them saying, hey, we still need paperwork, so we're going to freeze reimbursement until we get it.
So I'm assuming you need a motion and a vote in order to begin that process from us?
Please.
Okay. So I'm going to ask for a motion to shift the bid savings that we have seen to the contingency part of the project, and to authorize PMA PE to begin negotiations with the MSBA on that process. Does
Jane,
that
can I
work?
suggest one addition there? So just the district share of the bid savings.
Got it.
Granted, we don't know what that is, but
Vote to shift the district share of the bid savings to contingency, and to allow PMA to begin negotiations with the MSBA on that request.
So moved.
Second, Cabral.
I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Cabral,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Sobrai,
Yes.
Vamosi,
Vamosi, yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Martin, I'm a yes. So that motion passes. Moving along.
all right. Thank you, everyone. So this next one, this is actually something that we first had circulated back in January. Some of you may remember this memorandum. We discussed it at one of the building committees, and I think we actually had a handful of folks volunteer. Sorry, excuse me. But we did, we tabled it until one of the following meetings, because I think that we were looking at potentially adding a fourth person. And I think at the time, the fourth person was going to be Connor. Since then, in discussions with Connor and understanding the level of commitment this will be, I don't know if that has changed. But so the just very quickly, I'll recap it again, as we did already touch on this. We call it a technical review committee. It's a change order review committee, and it's basically a subcommittee that has authorization to expend project contingency up to a certain amount, and that certain amount depends on whether it's discretionary or not discretionary. Stuff that is not discretionary and needs to move forward, the review committee would have the authorization to move it forward to keep the project's momentum going. And items that are discretionary, they have a limit of up to, PMA is proposing $10,000. Anything beyond that $10,000, if it's discretionary, would be tabled until the next school planning committee meeting. Or if something is very urgent, PMA will fire out an email and ask folks if they have any objection. If we get any objections, we'll call for an emergency meeting. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell. The last time we talked about this, I think that Anne, Ken, and Dave Field had volunteered, and Connor was the potential fourth. I don't know that we made it super clear last time that that the people on this committee, it would be great if they're actually able to sit in on the weekly meetings, just to really know what is happening in the project on a day-to-day basis and be able to make these decisions quickly and informed without having hours of deliberation or anything.
Chad, are you talking about the Wednesday weekly meeting?
Yep. So there'd be the Wednesday weekly meeting, which is at 2 o'clock. And then we would also have another shorter meeting with just this group to talk about strictly changes. So that would
and
be
that shorter meeting with the technical review committee would be weekly. You're proposing that would probably likely be a weekly meeting as well.
Yep, we'd have a standing weekly meeting, and then if something urgent comes up, we'd fire out an email and coordinate that way with that smaller group.
And my recollection may be different. For some reason, in Dr. Cabral or Dave Twombly, I thought we had said Dave Twombly would sit on it as well. I don't recall though.
Yes, on the school side, we were, Anne did volunteer, but we were still not sure what the leadership structure was going to be at the new school, and we felt like the principal should be on that. So we have since made those decisions, and they have been publicized. So it actually will be Sam Weintraub and David Twombly from the school side.
Sam Cedarbaum.
Sam, what did I say? Sam Weintraub? Sam Cedarbaum. Sam Cedarbaum and David Twombly. We are also, just as a point of clarification, David Twombly is also updating our MSBA sheet for the group
Roster.
so that Anne Weintraub will be an at-large member because she is a resident, and Sam Cedarbaum will now be listed as the principal. And of course, we're adding Tim Vermosi. So we made those 3 changes, and that's going to be sent to the MSBA. So I know it's not the same thing, but just to make sure everything's tight, we have that in motion. So from the school side, we are suggesting Sam Cedarbaum and David Twombly. And they're both aware of it and understand the time, the necessary time commitment.
So the other possible members, I think you had mentioned Dave Field. I don't know where Connor stands at this point in terms of the time commitment, and someone can correct me because I'm probably not remembering accurately because this was in January. I have a recollection that Ken Carlson may have expressed an interest in sitting on this committee as well. So if those folks could maybe pipe in and let us know what they're thinking.
Yeah, that's correct for me, Ken.
Okay. Connor?
I'm available as needed.
Was that, that was Dave Field?
Yes.
That was Dave. So just 2 quick questions. I guess for PMA, does this count as a public body, or are these supposed to be public? Okay. And are the meetings, it's once a week, is it in person? If I'm not around, can I call in and listen in? I mean, I'm happy to help. I'd be misrepresenting my schedule to say that I have.
So I want to,
every single week.
Before we do that, can I clarify 2 things? One is, could people participate and not be voting members? But then we could have a core who are voting members. Is that doable?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if that would make it easier if we said that maybe there's 3 voting members, but then, for example, Connor could participate and Dave Field could participate and give their advice and input before a vote is taken. Or Connor and Dave, are you volunteering to attend every week as voting members? I just want to be clear.
Well,
So
yeah,
I just like some clarification on the composition. I think there was recommended 1 from the school, 1 from town finance, and 1 from building facilities. So I would volunteer to be the member for building facilities.
Okay.
As far as what you want to do, I'm fine with whatever.
Okay.
So where are I haven't been to one of these meetings, so where are they? Just on site every week?
They're virtual for now. They may change to on-site at some point in the future, but yeah, right now they're virtual. It's
Okay.
actually been working really, really well for us, so we may keep it that way, but time will tell.
Those are the weekly owner update meetings. The PCO meetings have not occurred to date because this TRC has not been set up. So the time and date and type of meeting, virtual or in person, has not been discussed or decided upon yet either.
Yeah, so I mean, particularly if it's virtual or remote, and I'm fine. I'm happy to help out. That's fine. We would need to obviously change the charge. The memo saying 3 people total. It sounds like we're talking about 5. So you'd have
Right.
2 from school, 2 from the town, 1 from SPC, which would be Ken. But I'm happy to do that. I'll miss a couple, I'm sure, at some point, but I'll be at most of them.
So I'm assuming from PMA's perspective, it's okay to have 5. You're not concerned about the number, and they can all be voting members. Your concern is that if a vote needs to be taken, that they're there and can make that happen, correct? To approve things.
Yep, exactly. And then, so if it's 5, how many votes do we need to move something forward? So if 1 or 2 people are out on vacation, is it 2 votes or 3 votes?
I would say 3.
You would
be right.
typically with the public, I know it's not technically a public body, but it would be a quorum of those present. So a majority of those present.
I think it makes sense to have an odd number anyway.
Right. Okay. So what I'm going to suggest is that that PMA update the protocol document that you have, the draft that we're looking at now, to reflect the changes that we've discussed, which is that we're talking about 5 members as opposed to 3. Although I don't think we've made any other, I don't believe anybody has suggested any other substantive changes to this document. Does anybody have any other questions about any of the other paragraphs 1 through 7 of this document besides the membership piece?
Jane, I have one question. It's kind of a
Yeah.
gray area. It's not necessarily addressed in this document, but maybe it should be updated to be addressed. And it only came up because Dan Colley, working with the DEP, it sounds like they're going to be looking for some additional information. So we have a fee proposal from Perkins that is not ready to go to the committee tonight, but we'd like to give the authority to this committee to approve that once it's been reviewed and vetted and cleared.
Can you be a little bit more specific, because what you just, so what are we talking about?
It would be a designer amendment for the septic design based on DEP requirements.
And
Septic load test.
Yep.
Okay. And would this typically be something that would be handled through the change authorization protocol, or would it be something that's handled through the school planning committee?
It usually is handled, I mean, we don't have a process right now, so it would have to go back to the school planning committee, but I would like to put it in the purview of the technical review committee if possible.
Is it over 10,000? Is it under $10,000?
No, but it's not discretionary. It's something where if the DEP tells us we need to do it, we're gonna have to do it.
Okay. Any other
Jane, it's
questions?
Caroline.
Go ahead. Yep.
Is there any kind of constraint? To tell you the truth, I can't read the document. It's just too small on my screen, so this might be addressed, but is there any constraint based on whether one is a voting member of the school planning committee? I know that I think that the suggestions for people that would participate are perfect. It's just, I believe Dave Twombly is not actually a voting member of the school planning committee. So does that make a difference in terms of the votes of this change authorization committee? In other words, do only voting members of the school planning committee have the authority to participate in that process?
I mean, PMA should weigh in. I would assume because we are giving them, the school planning committee is giving them the authority to approve and to vote, that I think that should suffice, but I don't know if Connor or PMA would like to weigh in on that.
I would agree with that, Jane.
Perspective.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. I just wondered if there would be any sort of legal constraint, but that's, I think that the members who volunteered sort of, are perfect. So I just want to
And-
make sure that we weren't going to
And
run
so
afoul
to-
of any kind of.
To your other question or request, which is to allow the change the technical review committee, I guess is what we're calling them, is that what we call them?
Yep.
To allow the technical review committee to handle the change that you anticipate is going to have to go to Perkins because of some DEP requirements related to the wastewater treatment planning design. I'm comfortable with that, but I kind of would like to defer because I'm confident in the abilities of the members of this committee, but I would like to defer or hear feedback from the rest of the committee because I don't want to ask for a vote on something that the committee itself is not comfortable with.
I just have a question about that.
Yep.
Jane, it's Jackie. So if the DEP says you have to do X, Y, or Z, do they sometimes say you can do X and Y, or you can do A and B, or do they just say these are the things you need to do?
So great question. We actually had pushed back on the DEP initially. This request came up some time ago, and we tried not to do this load test, and they came back recently and said we need to do the load test. So this was not our first choice, but I don't think that we have a choice any longer.
Okay. That was just my question because with the authorization, I was just curious, like if they give you a choice, like you can do this and it's $5,000 or you can do this and it's 6,000, you know, how that works. So, okay.
And so our technical experts, which are going to be Dave Field, Dave Twombly, and probably Ken on that review committee, are you feeling like this is something you're comfortable with the school planning committee giving you the authorization to do, assuming we take a vote tonight and you guys are the committee?
I'm good with that, Ken.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Dave,
fine. That's fine.
Dave Field?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Connor, do you have any thoughts? Connor or Dr. Cabral, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine as well.
Okay.
The only question I have that's not addressed in the memo for PMA is, so obviously the TRC will meet weekly and approve change orders as needed as we move through this. There would be some kind of notice sent out to the school planning committee if it was a discretionary change order for more than $10,000. Do you just do it as kind of good practice that at the monthly SPC meetings, you would just say, hey, by the way, these are the change orders that the TRC executed the past month, just to keep everyone in the loop?
We can do that. We can do a high level contingency overview, or we can go change by change. I mean, either way, whatever the committee prefers. I'd recommend starting out with a high level review, and if it looks like trending in a direction that's maybe not where we want to go, then we can go into more detail at the school planning committee meetings.
And the only other thing I'd request, because you have done it with the weekly Wednesday meetings, is if you don't mind, once the TRC gets going, perhaps just sending out the links as to the full school planning committee. And if members are inclined to listen in, they can certainly do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that,
Jane?
Yep.
Jane, one more question. I don't know if you're in a position to respond to this, folks, but what kind of, what would a load test typically cost? I'm just curious about what's coming because I feel like this wastewater treatment stuff just keeps coming back to bite us.
The proposal that we have in hand is $60,500.
Yikes. Okay, just kind of wanted to know what kind of ballpark we were looking at. Thank you.
Chad, maybe it would help to advise what bucket we would see that coming out of and what's in there.
Yeah, it's a soft cost contingency draw, and I don't know the amount offhand, Walter, unless you have it readily available.
I got two screens going and they're both full. I'm sorry, I don't have it offhand either.
2 minutes and I'll have it.
So maybe while you're looking, you can look if you want. And while you are looking for that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the TRC membership as Dave Twombly, Dave Field, Ken Carlson, Sam Cedarbaum, and Connor Reed. And furthermore, to authorize the TRC committee to operate as per the protocol that has been presented by PMA this evening with the adjustments as we have discussed them. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
O'Neill.
Reed.
Up. Sorry. Motion was,
Connor moved, motion, right?
Reed was the motion and O'Neill was the second. Okay. so
O'Neill
I'm gonna
second,
do
right?
Quick roll call vote. Cabral,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Silberai,
Yes.
Vamosi,
Mostly yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
and Martin. I'm also a yes. So that gets that agenda item taken care of. And I don't know, Chad, if you've had an opportunity to kind of see
I got
what's
it.
available in that contingency bucket, and so what we'll be drawing against.
Yep, so we have a line item for other reimbursable costs, which is probably where we'll tag this. Will not be reimbursable though. For that line has $450,000, and then we also have a soft cost contingency of
Wow.
2.6 million. So there's over 2.5 million to draw off
Okay.
that 60,000. But these changes are pretty infrequent. We usually don't see a lot of soft cost contingency draws on these projects.
Okay. Great. Caroline, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So now I'm going to move us along to the next item, which is the vote to approve the right-of-way for Verizon.
Jane, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm visible on your screen. Just one more question on that memo from PMA. It asked that the school planning committee take the vote it just did, but it also says the select board. And I assume that's because the select board are the body that has the actual contracts executed with these companies. Am I right about that? And if so, do we need to have the select board basically duplicate this vote on Monday?
Yeah, Connor, I think that was inserted back in January when we had floated this document back and forth. So yeah, we would need that vote on Monday.
Okay, is it possible for PMA to update this memo's date based on the vote we just took, including the 5-member instead of 3, and send it to me by tomorrow so we can post it for Monday?
Yep, we can do that.
Great, thank you.
And the only other little change, it's Chad, what I've talked about is if we can start referring to this as the Blanche A. Ames Elementary School project in all of our documents. It's
Yep, I'll
small,
update.
sorry, being picky.
Absolutely, no problem. So one item on that, we do have a pressing change. We do not have numbers yet, but I want to just run this committee through as we need to release it. So within the footprint of the foundations, there's an old underground leaching vault that needs to be removed in order for them to continue with foundations. I was hoping that we would have pricing from the site subcontractor today. We do need to release that. If I don't have a number from them by tonight or tomorrow morning, we're going to have to tell them to proceed time and material so we don't impact the schedule. I don't think that we're going to have all the authorizations that we need in place with the select board vote on the TRC to do it the proper way. So I think unfortunately we're just going to have to charge forward to keep the project moving forward and beg for forgiveness afterwards, I think, unfortunately.
How long have you known about this?
This item came up last week.
Okay.
Yep, and we still don't have numbers on it. The
We've been
design,
flushing, yeah.
Yep, there were 4 different plans of attack and 2 different engineers involved. So we just got direction from engineers and buy-in from the other engineer, and they're pricing it as of yesterday.
So can you back up a little bit for members of the school planning committee and tell us what the problem was, when you encountered it,
Which course of action is recommended?
Thank you. Yeah.
Walter, can you pull up in the RFP? Is it number 6, Dan?
Absolutely, yep, 1 second.
And are you going to be asking us to do anything tonight in regards to this, or are you just informing us?
If we can vote on it, terrific, but there's no vote on the agenda for this.
Yeah, there is no vote on the agenda for tonight.
Jane, for items like that, obviously we can continue to discuss this. For items like this that do come up so quickly, is it possible to put a items not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours, that could also be taken as a vote, or is that not something that's okay? If we added that to the agenda going forward, in case something like this were to happen.
So my preference is not to have items not anticipated, because sometimes I feel like people take advantage of that by putting things in. But if we were and I'd ask Connor to weigh in on this as well, if we were very, very clear that you didn't start to just use this as an opportunity because we hadn't planned for something that we could have planned for.
Certainly,
Connor?
and it would not be PMA's anticipation to use that. This just seemed like one of those, but yeah, I totally understand.
Just to make sure I understand the question, Walter. So this is an item that came up. We only got pricing basically yesterday. You're asking if the school planning committee can have a standing item for its regular meetings, items not reasonably anticipated, to deal with things like this. Is that right?
Yeah, basically a safety outlet. Yeah.
Yeah. So my only question, I guess, is doesn't the technical review committee make that unnecessary once that's established?
It should, yeah.
It certainly should. This would be a non-discretionary item. You are correct. So it almost should become unnecessary. Yeah.
Okay, so like in a case like this, you would send the information to us electronically. You wouldn't even wait probably for the weekly if it was that time sensitive, right? You'd say you all have to look at this and give us your okay or not.
Right. We're just kind of in that unprecedented time where we were waiting for unfortunately for those protests to wrap up. So we are just a little behind the 8 ball because of those 2 items, because of those protests.
I understand. So, I mean, I think Jane's instinct is a good one, though, that just generally items not reasonably anticipated is kind of a catch-all that can get folks in open meeting law trouble. I obviously trust everyone on this committee, so as long as it's not just getting used as a catch-all, I think it's okay, but it also seems somewhat unnecessary if we're establishing a formal kind of rapid review.
You're correct. You're correct. I should have. Yep, absolutely. You're correct, Connor.
And at some point, and we don't have to discuss it this evening, but perhaps I'd like a better sense of when we're going to be bringing, I mean, obviously there's things within the technical review committee. We've scoped it out and said when those things need to come to the full school planning committee, but it's just the distinction between moving forward at some point, what routinely will come to the school planning committee versus what gets captured in the technical review committee. And it sounds, based on what I'm hearing, that as much as possible now goes through the technical review committee because decisions need to be made so rapidly. Okay.
And they update us as our regular meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Right. So go ahead if you want to briefly explain this.
All right. So actually jump to the next page, Walter. There you go. And you can zoom in on the top half up there. So there's an old abandoned leaching field that's about 15 feet underground. And you can see on the left side, it was not on the as-built it was shown on the as-built to not be within the building footprint. But when you look on the right side, that's where it actually exists out there. And Walter, if you can move your cursor over the corner of the building that it's actually underneath.
Yep. So I'll go to, this is the building corner that it is shown not underneath, and this is the actual location as found. So that's the corner of the building right there.
So what needs to happen?
So we need to dig down 15 feet in that area and remove those concrete chambers and then backfill it with structural soil.
Okay.
And then we can continue with footings and foundations. But right now they're on a standstill in that area. We've actually scrambled to resequence the structural steel in the entire building based on this. So it's something we need to act on quickly as has potential to incur more cost, and it needs to happen. I don't know that we have another choice. So we looked at other options. So filling those chambers with flow fill, that top corner, it's into that building almost 20 feet, and these chambers are super shallow. They're only like 2 feet high. So there's no way to guarantee that you have flow fill in all those chambers, and none of the engineers would sign off on that. We also looked at the option of actually leaving the chambers in place. Again, engineers won't sign off on that. This is delegated design, so that company that installed the Ramdagger piers actually has their own engineering firm, so we have to make sure they're on board as they stamp this entire design. And then of course Perkins' team needs to also be on board. The fourth option, Dan, what was the fourth bullet we looked at? I don't think.
Punching helical piles through it.
Yeah, that's way more expensive. We don't want to do that.
Yep. It's another
Yep.
option, but yes, that's probably going to take more time than what we are going to do.
So
yeah, and we'd have to punch those 20 feet down, get a specialty drill rig here to
All
actually
the way down to bedrock with them.
for weeks. Yep. So it's not a real option.
So we understand the problem. We understand the options for solution. You don't have a cost yet. This was not something that was anticipated when we were putting kind of the project budget and the design together. So now what you need is the authorization to go ahead and take this money from whatever the money.
Construction contingency.
Okay. Construction contingency. I was gonna say whatever the amount is to take it from construction and contingency. And it needs to get done. It needs to happen. This would be something that would normally be happened now. If the technical review committee were in place, they could approve that. Okay.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure. Go ahead, Connor.
Do you have like a magnitude of cost idea? Like
Chad,
how many
did
digits?
you and I do a rough order of magnitude on this option? I just can't remember. We ran through so many scenarios the other day.
We did, Walter, but I didn't update it when I got the sketch here with the color coding as far as how far we're chasing it outside. So
Yeah.
this is the safety slopes and all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's probably, I think it's a 6-figure change. It's $150,000, I think, all said and done.
Yep.
It's tough to say until we actually dig down and we see how far we have to chase. We don't know.
Does that come out of that same roughly $2-point-something million contingency bucket, or was that a separate bucket for design contingency, and the construction contingency is different and larger? And if so, remind us of what it is.
That is
It's a bigger
correct.
contingency.
Yep, that is correct, Connor. And the construction contingency for this project is
3.7 more.
3.744 million. Yep.
Plus what you just shifted into it.
And what you just shifted into it.
So
That is
13
correct.
million.
Okay.
So
Jane, I just want to add, this is just to not caveat this, but these are the largest, typically the largest expenses of when the largest are the time when the largest expenses out of the construction contingency could come when you're coming out of the ground, especially when you have something like this unknown. Typically, these are when the larger ones do make their appearance.
We do have a building getting demolished and abated later too, so that's another dangerous one. But Walter's right, getting out of the ground is the most dangerous time, and taking down.
Going back into the ground.
okay. So from a kind of a open meeting law perspective, Connor, I'm going to ask for your advice here. I mean, my preference is to give them the authorization to go ahead and do this. It's not as a vote on the agenda. But I'd really like there to be some kind of confirmed authorization that we've given to the project team, because it doesn't sound like anything's going to be in play. You guys want to move before Monday night is what I'm hearing. And Monday night, it won't be until Monday night that the select board approves the technical review committee. Do you need a decision before Tuesday morning, for example?
We have been stalling for the past 24 hours on this one, and Braid's screaming about it. So yeah, we need to give them an answer tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Well, that's a decision for the committee to make. I mean, you might have a open meeting law violation filed. You could, I think, reasonably say this wasn't reasonably anticipated.
Right.
So,
Okay. So
yeah, that's a. I would do
there's
it.
no way around it. That's what I want to do.
You don't want to hold
What
a project up.
I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion from the school planning committee to authorize PMA to move forward with the work that needs to be done as a result of the change in the location of this underground leaching field. Is that
Wiseman,
enough?
so moved.
Yeah.
Patrick Helen, second.
Great. Cabral,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Soberai,
Yes.
Vamosi,
Famosi, yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Martin, I'm also a yes. Thanks,
Could I ask,
Connor.
one more question on that before we move on?
Yep,
Just for clarification, was that all coming out of just the construction contingency, or was the design coming out of the design contingency and the construction cost coming out of construction contingency? Was it like multiple buckets or just the one?
No
Yes.
design, there's no design cost for that. It's all come construction
The-
contingency.
If you were asking about the septic is anticipated coming out of one of the designer buckets. I think Chad said there was 260,000 in the
450,000 as an allowance in the design line item, and then we have another 2.16 million in soft cost contingency.
so it could come out of either one of those.
The
so
construction one we just
the
looked at,
wastewater treatment plan is coming out of design contingency.
Mhm.
The underground leaching field is coming out of construction.
Construction
contingency.
contingency, correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, moving on.
Oh, sorry, skipped over that. Chad, sorry, go ahead.
yep, so this is it's really just a formality, but I do think that we need a vote as we need something signed from the town. Verizon needs to install a pole and a duct bank to bring service to the new building. The new building actually sits where the 39 Lothrop Street address is there, and the pad 11, if you can highlight that, Walter, is on the right of way that actually cuts through to Sheridan Street. To give you context, the existing school is right under the 50 Spooner Street label. That's what Verizon needs to do, but it's on town property, so they need a right of way. And for you to start with this committee and seek a vote to approve that right away.
When you say we're going to start with this committee, where else do you need to go after you go to us?
It will probably need to go to council, I'd imagine.
And then I think a signature.
Sorry.
I believe there will be a signature at the end that will likely be from the school district as the owner of the property. Is that accurate, Chad? It's not a town-owned property, it's a school-owned property.
Typically, yeah. Yeah, typically it's the superintendent of schools.
Yeah.
But
It doesn't look like it affects any abutters properties. That's correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thanks.
Supposed to. That's correct.
So authorization from us, town council, then to the superintendent for signature.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from other committee members?
Are we sure it doesn't require a town meeting vote? Because in some communities it does.
Dave, are there exceptions for with utility poles? Can't the select board do those?
Yeah, so the select board can do sewer and drain, but this may fall under a grant of location. I don't see a difference between this being a right of way and these are former right of ways. A grant of location can be done by the select board. Verizon and National Grid come in all the time for those type of items.
So this may need to go to the select board, you think?
That would be my take. I agree with Ken. Generally, the only people that can give a right of way or an easement would be town meeting, unless it's a sewer or drain easement. But a grant of location is a way around that, where you're allowed to put it on to town property.
So I'm going to back us up and say then it's going to start at this committee, perhaps to town council, then to the select board, then to the superintendent, or are we?
Once if the select board granted,
Right.
it's binding. So
Okay.
But when is? I hope this doesn't have the time pressure of the last thing we just discussed. When is this needed?
The sooner the better. There's some time pressure here. If we can make it Monday.
Is it on Monday as well?
Is this property technically owned by the town or by the school department? Usually,
I don't think we differentiate.
There's not a distinction, yeah.
I could check our property GIS.
And I believe that these are both within former or paper streets right of ways that aren't constructed. So I think you could make the case that the select board could issue a grant of location for this.
Yep, that's correct. They are.
So Connor's
trying to match this to a GIS map.
Okay, okay, you're looking at something else. So what I'm going to suggest for this evening's meeting is that we're voting to approve it, and that then PMA is acting to put in place whatever language or documents by tomorrow that Connor needs, if he needs to add this to the select board meeting for Monday night. And then I'm also going to say now, these kinds of things, particularly when they need to go to the select board, and I know we've talked about this before, and you know the words that are about to come out of my mouth need a little bit more notice, if at all possible.
So the other catch on this one is we actually do not have the right-of-way language from Verizon. This just made it to our desk
Yesterday? Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
We
Hours
don't have
ago.
the actual right-of-way.
So who's telling you it's time sensitive then?
Yeah.
This
The
is
schedule.
The summer work. So once the students are out, which is tomorrow,
Yes.
this all needs to happen during the summer before students return.
So when's the next select board meeting?
Well, the select board meets Monday and then they don't meet again until July 12th. And if we can get the paperwork from Verizon, we can put it on the agenda, but.
Yeah, I don't even know that you can do anything without that paperwork from Verizon. I think we need the actual right-of-way
I
document.
think you need that paperwork, and they sent this to me this morning.
This document we're looking at, or
For
the other one?
This is the document they sent to me this morning for immediate approval.
Right. Yeah, and this is not the actual right-of-way. So this is a bootleg sketch that we're looking for approval on. The actual right-of-way documentation is still being written by Verizon.
So the select board needs the documentation before they can vote on it.
Right.
So I guess we're putting the ball back in your court to let you know that if this is in fact urgent, that needs to be gotten to Connor by tomorrow morning. So I guess it's back to you, back to Verizon.
Back to Verizon.
Yep.
Can I ask a question to either PMA or Perkins? Who's doing this work, the conduit work? Is it going to be the civil, or is it going to be Verizon?
The conduit is us.
Conduit, but yeah.
So
Contractor.
I don't think that's a problem to install the conduit. Verizon's not going to pull it until they have the right-of-way approved, but I don't see any issue with us installing the conduit right now or any point. That's usually where it comes from. They won't energize the line and pull the line for you until they have the right-of-way, but I don't see any reason to not put in the conduit.
I agree. Yep.
Dave or PMA, what was the language you used that trying to write agenda items here? Grant of, what do you call it?
I think it's a grant of location, but there may be some advertising requirements on that, Connor. I defer to you and town council on that.
All right. And so to be clear from PMA, Verizon has given you this, and that's it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I don't, unless they get you a legal document overnight, I don't think.
Connor, we've been pushing. I mean, daily, if not hourly, with them to get this. So
we understand. We work with them too. I'm just trying to set expectations for everyone here that and Dottie wants to say weigh in. Please do, but the board.
Yep.
We have to post an agenda tomorrow morning, so if I don't have something tomorrow morning, it's just gonna have to wait till the meeting in July.
For that, but I think like Dave Field said,
right,
they should be able to move ahead with the work.
So is everybody clear on steps, which is that from Braith's perspective, we're going to move ahead with, or moving ahead with the conduit, but in terms of the Verizon piece, that unless and until they get a full set of documentation for Connor and the select board, that that piece will not be moving forward. However, what I now want to ask is, as a school planning committee, can we take a vote to approve the proposed right-of-way for Verizon based on completed documentation that will be submitted to the select board? Is that what you're asking for this evening? From Walter, you kind of seem to be saying yes. Is that what you're asking for this evening? Okay.
I think that makes sense, Jane. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion, but And then once I'm done that, I know that there is a member of the public who has a question related to this. I'm not host, so I don't know that I have the ability to unmute.
I
might be-
have a question too before the
Okay.
vote, if that's okay.
Go right ahead,
This
Jackie.
is Jackie. So, all right, so we have this little map here, but you saying that we're going to get more different kinds of documents from Verizon. What would those documents say? What information are going to be in those documents that we don't have before us now?
It's a signature and typically this, or an agreement page and typically this sketch, Chad. I believe that's what I remember the last time we did one of these.
Yep.
So it's not going to be anything that's significantly different than what's before us now.
It's typically just an agreement page for signatures.
Okay.
That outlines.
And the reason that
Thank
it
you.
needs to go through legal counsel is because it's an agreement, I'm assuming, correct? And
Yep.
so this would be reviewed by, this agreement would be, document would be reviewed by legal counsel before any signatures are put on it, correct? Okay.
I believe so.
So before we vote, I think Florence Sullivan may have had a question. I don't think I have the ability to
You're a
unmute.
co-host, Jane, but I'm looking in the chat and I don't see any questions.
I
Yeah.
sent the question directly to Jane.
Yeah.
Oh, through email. Gotcha. Okay.
No, through the
No,
chat.
But go ahead, Florence, you can go ahead and just ask. You're unmuted, so go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask, when they put these wires up, are they going to have to put a pole between the pole that's currently in front of my house and a second pole, or is that a direct line to the new pole at the break between the properties on Sheridan Street? And is that line going to be on my side of the street or the side of the opposite side of the street?
This is underground, I believe.
It's all underground.
Yeah, that's right. Right, guy?
Awesome.
So that pole stays and it goes underground
Pole
from there
stays
to
and it goes
handhole 11. Yep, and then
Yep,
up
it
to
goes
Pat.
down and underground all the way down the road, and then so you won't see anything
Oh,
that's not
thank
there
you.
already. Pole 11.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, I am going to ask for a motion that the school planning committee approve the right-of-way that is required for Verizon pending the further documentation that should be provided in order for the select board to also approve that right-of-way. Can someone motion in a second?
Cabral motion.
Carlson second.
Right. I'm now going to do a vote. Cabral,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen, Helen,
Sorry.
yeah. Okay. O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Sobrai,
Yes.
Vamosi,
Mimosa, yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
and Martin, I'm also a yes. So that gets us to the schedule for the for summer meetings. Walter, do you have a sense of what you're looking at?
Chad, I think you and I talked about setting up, the standard monthly building committee, school planning committee meetings. I think this is the, good God, the
Third Wednesday.
third Wednesday. Sorry. That works for PMA. So if we want to just standardize that third Wednesday going forward, and I think unless something comes up, we can just hold the third Wednesday of every month. Chad, does that make sense?
It works for me.
It would allow us to, if there were something that this committee did need to move on, it would allow us to get it on that requisition at that, the middle of the month seems like a good point in time. If there were decisions the committee need to make, they could be incorporated.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ask committee members if they can just double. I know we've had this conversation before, and generally I think we did land on the third Wednesday at 6 p.m. for these meetings. I just want to make sure that there have been no other changes or surprises in people's schedules that might have to alter that standard time.
Jane, could I just add one more thing? Obviously the approval that came through late last night was for, I believe, April 2nd, 22.
Yep.
Should we hold these virtual to that date? Or does there need to be a discussion on that? It doesn't, these seem to be working really well with this group.
I'm very comfortable asking us to hold them virtual. I'm not going to know that I think what I might ask that we do is at some point if the town starts to move away from holding all their meetings virtual, that we follow that lead. But I haven't heard that from any of the other town committees. So my sense is that I'm as chair, I'm very willing for this committee to, for the foreseeable future, continue to hold these meetings virtually, remotely.
It provides a lot of flexibility. It's really helpful.
Yep. Okay, so with that, if you guys want to go ahead and confirm that, that would be great. I don't think we need to take a vote on that. We can just go ahead and move forward with that.
Absolutely.
Are there any other new business items this evening? Anything else? Any questions or comments on anything that we've discussed from any member? Go ahead, Connor.
Sorry to continue to complicate things, but so before the establishment of the technical review committee, my recollection is that when there was change orders with a contract, that this committee would vote to basically tell PMA, yes, that sounds good, and then that vote would be executed by the select board because they are technically the project owner and the contract signatories. Do you think we will have pricing for what we just talked about tonight by Monday, so that at a minimum we could have a appropriately posted agenda for the select board to execute the actual contract change order at their meeting?
So we were supposed to have pricing on this by this morning, and we have not seen anything. The site contractor is currently not happy, as we rejected another one of their change requests. I don't know that they're going to give us a fair price on this. I think we need to direct them to proceed under a change directive and track the time and material it takes.
Yeah, there's got to be some negotiation here.
Okay. So
and it may be maybe there's a max that we ask for based on what the number we get, Chad.
Yeah.
Maybe we do that and just say up to and not to exceed this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to help out and have something that actually gets posted.
That might be worth doing.
Is that something that between Perkins Eastman and PMA you think you could pull together for the board to have by Monday? Or Dave, you're raising your hand?
Yeah, so in my experience, we don't generally bring all the contract change orders to the board every time we sign them. We usually lump them together. Okay. Because we have a contract with Brate for millions. We're not over that contract amount yet.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's
I don't think you need to do it on a change order by change order basis. You can lump them together and bring them forward as needed. There will be credits and things like that, and things wash, but most likely towards the end of the project, you'll have to have an amendment to allow that payment.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
We would propose something very similar to that here. So this would be a PCO, a pending change order, and then once a month or every other month, we do a collection of those PCOs into one change order, and then that's when they can actually bill it.
Any other questions? Connor, you good with that answer? Okay. Any other questions or comments on anything that we have discussed in this evening's agenda?
Jane, Caroline?
Yep.
I just want to compliment you on the absolutely outstanding minutes that you put together. Such detail and just so well done. I know that you always get embarrassed when anyone compliments you, but I don't care.
That's not me. I don't. That's not me. That's Lynn.
You signed them? Okay, well, those were wonderful minutes. I don't know who did them, but
I'm assuming that's Lynn
really
who does the minutes for this group. I don't.
That is Lynn. She's here and she does do the minutes.
Yeah. So
okay,
that
you signed them.
Pass
So
them
sometimes you used to do
Lynn.
minutes. Okay. Good. Yeah, they were great.
Great job,
Very
Lynn.
detailed. Yep.
Anything else for this evening? Thanks to everybody who participated in the groundbreaking. It seems like quite some time ago, but it was a wonderful morning. So just thanks to everybody who helped coordinate and make that event such a success.
I'd just like to say one thing. This is Florence again. The project, from my perspective, has gone very well. I happened to meet Michael Brait one morning when I was out walking, and he told me exactly what to expect with the pile, and which I began to call Mont Blanche, and is now sitting all grassed and beautiful next to my house. And I'm getting very attached to that pile. I have a very thin picture that I'm going to send to Jane, and hopefully she will send it out to you and send you some calming thoughts, because I sit out there and I meditate on that mountain right now. So I'm really enjoying it. It makes all the
That
little
feedback, Mrs. Sullivan. That's very nice.
yeah, and all the little beeps that I hear now and then are really not as bad as anyone would think, because of the way the wind blows. It kind of blows the sound away from me, so it's not bad at all.
Great.
And so I just wanted you all to know that we're very chill over here. I don't know how my neighbors are, but I'm pretty chill.
Excellent. Did Chad, did the videos take place of the residents that wanted them?
Yes,
They
did.
did. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So without anything else, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Cabral?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Carlson?
Yes.
Fulgenetti?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Soberai?
Yes.
Vamosi?
Famosi, yes.
Wiseman?
Yes.
Martin, I'm a yes. Thank you very much. It was great to see everybody after a couple months.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Good week.